have told you this, but I met Eric about 6 years ago. I want you to remember that piece of information as you watch this next part of the interview. Eric, how old is the new?
I finished it about a year ago now.
1 year ago. So how long did it take you to make it?
I had started the body about a decade before that.
Wow.
It wasn't a decade of working 40 hours a week on the instrument, but I had to take a break for a long time because I had to learn how to solder together all of these keys, make all of this key work. And so once I learned how to do it, then I was able to finish the instrument.
But the whole process took about a decade.
Yeah.
That's amazing dedication, too. So here's my next question. It's a math question. When I met Eric, how long had he been working on the new? Can you do the math? He finished the new 1 year ago, and he said it took him 10 years to make it. I met Eric about 6 years ago. Let's write for a few years. We won't be that specific. When I met Eric, he had been Okay. In this sentence, there are two verb forms. Met and had been working. This one you should recognize, the simple past. Something happened at a specific point in the past. What about this? Had been working. Well, there's a past form of our helping verb, but there's also been, another helping verb. And then we have a present participle, the ing form of a verb. This is our past perfect progressive. So why do we use the past perfect progressive? Well, as you know, progressive forms can refer to something in progress. But unlike the past progressive, the past perfect progressive refers to an action or event that was in progress before another past point in time. So it helps sequence two past points. It must be clear to the speaker and the listener what those points were. We can use the simple past to refer to that later action or event. So in this sequence, first, the work began on the new. That took place 10 years ago, right? Then, later in the past, I met Eric. So the action of working and the action of meeting are both past actions. But one happened before the other. One began before the other. This was in progress before I met Eric. There's one more possible use of the past perfect progressive. I'll use this example to help explain. Read this with me. When I saw Eric's dirty hands and happy smile, I knew he had been working in his workshop. First, let's find the verb forms. Saw, knew, had been working. What do we have here? Simple past, past perfect progressive. So which verb refers to a first action? This one. Which verbs refer to a second point in time? These two, saw and knew. So, I saw his hands and his smile, and when I saw I knew something about him. I knew that before that past point in time, he had been working in his workshop. Let me try and explain it this way. We can use the past perfect progressive to refer to earlier actions that left evidence for a later past point in time.
Remember,
We mainly use the past perfect progressive to refer to actions or events in progress before a past point in time. We can also use the past perfect progressive to refer to earlier actions which left some kind of evidence for a later past point in time, so it helps explain that later situation. Please be clear about the difference between the past perfect progressive and the past progressive. The past perfect progressive refers to actions or events in progress before a past point in time. Consider this example. I was happy that Paul got a new job. He had been hoping for a great opportunity. That meant he got a job, but before that, he was in the process of hoping for something good, a great opportunity. In contrast, the past progressive refers to actions or events in progress at a past point in time. Look at this second example. Hi, how are you? Just an hour ago I was thinking about you and hoping you'd call. So we name a past point in time, an hour ago, and say what was in progress at that time. Now let's talk about the difference between the past perfect progressive and the present perfect progressive. The past perfect progressive can refer to earlier actions which left evidence for a later past point in time. So the 2 points are in the past. Consider this example. By noon, Dan was tired and hungry. He had been working hard all morning. The second sentence here explains the first. Working hard all morning led to the result of being tired and hungry. In contrast, the present perfect progressive can refer to past actions which have left evidence for us at the present time. Look at the second example. I've been working hard on this piece, so I can play it much better now. Here we're explaining a present situation by telling about past actions. We're explaining why I've improved. There's one more important contrast we need to make between verb forms. Non-action verbs are not normally used in the past perfect progressive. So it's incorrect to say, I had been being to Paris. But I can say, I had been to Paris, because be is an example of a non-action verb. However, the past perfect progressive can suggest that an event or state was temporary. So let's take, for example, the verb have. It is correct to say we had been having difficulties, so it wasn't a surprise when the company closed. Have in this example suggests a temporary state. Remember that the past perfect progressive uses had been plus a present participle for all subjects. Here are some additional examples. I had been talking with him. You had been studying for over a year. We had been traveling the whole summer. And of course, in spoken English, contractions are common. When you form the negative of the past perfect progressive, remember use had not or hadn't, been plus the present participle, as in, I hadn't been practicing. They hadn't been playing. In short answers to yes/no questions, just use the first helping verb. Had you been doing your work? You can answer yes, I had. No, I hadn't. Let's do a quick check. Let's pretend it is 12 o'clock noon right now. Now look at the 3 sentences. Tell me which one could be used with the expression since 10 o'clock this morning. Number 3. That's the present perfect. Now, which sentence could be used with the time expression at 10 o'clock this morning? Number 1. That's the past progressive. So I think you know what's the answer to this question. Which sentence can be used with the time expression before 10 o'clock this morning? Right, the past perfect progressive. Now let's take a closer look at time expressions that can be used with the past perfect and past perfect progressive. First, let's look at affirmative sentences. I had already looked everywhere. Already can help express completion and meeting expectations. He had just left. Just can express that something immediately happened before another point in time. In the next 3 examples, we have time expressions that help us sequence events. By the time you came, I had finished. By April, she had found a job. Before the age of 30, I'd already done that. In our last 2 examples, we have time expressions that help us express duration, a length of time. I had known him for many years. We had worked together since the 1990s. Now let's look at negative sentences. I'd never done that. I hadn't done that before. I hadn't done that yet. Use of yet helps explain that something was not done according to someone's expectations. Finally, let's look at time expressions used in questions. Had you ever done that? Had that happened before? How long had you been living there? How many times had you seen her? How much had you saved? Now I know we've just covered a lot of time expressions, but you can always go back and review these slides to become more familiar with the uses of all of them. Let's try an exercise to practice all that we've learned. Choose the best form of the verb to complete the sentence. 1. Read the sentence to yourself and then I'll tell you the answer. When Eric called, I was playing the piano, so I stopped and we chatted. Here we need the past progressive. 2. Eric called me because he had just received some good news and he couldn't wait to tell me about it. Here we need the past perfect. 3. Eric told me that earlier in the day a writer from a music magazine had called and asked for an interview. The best choice here is the past perfect. However, it's not incorrect to use the simple past if the sequence is very clear to the listener. 4. By the time I hung up, Eric's excitement had spread to me as well. Best choice, the past perfect. 5. I knew that Eric had been waiting for something big like this, so I was happy for him. The best answer is the past perfect progressive. 6.
Eric has been gaining attention with his invention, and so it won't be a surprise if other journalists become interested in the new. Here, the present perfect progressive makes sense. We're not in a past time frame. We refer to the present and to the future.
Well, that's all for this lesson on the past perfect and past perfect progressive. I hope you'll join me again to learn more about verbs in English. Thanks for watching, and happy studies!